Hi guys, Andy here with the YotaPhone 2, most noticeable for, well in this case, cheerleaders on the back. That's showing some of my Instagram images at this point. I have done a whole separate video on the back screen, so if you want to know specifically about that, go and have a look at the other video. For now, I'm just going to talk about the front though, well, the device in itself. Actually, I would comment. So the back screen, I've not found it massively useful, other than generally as a clock. So the other one that was showing, so you kind of leave it on the desk as you're doing other things. You can always see the time. That's handy. But again, if you've got a clock on the wall, is it all that useful? Is it that necessary, I suppose, would be the question. It is quite functional. You can basically push the image through from your front screen to the back screen, and it's still functional. But again, why would you really want to do that? I think some people say it will save a lot of battery because you're only using grayscale and not many pixels, but I don't know. Maybe that's up to you. Anyway, so the design of the device, it's got very rounded corners, as you can see up there and down at the bottom, but strangely it's one of the flattest devices I can remember. It really is very flat on the front screen. So very curved there, but very flat. You know, there's quite an edge to it basically. I quite like it though. I do like the sort of black, sleek looking designs that we're seeing from a lot of devices these days. I think it's very stylish. There are capacitive buttons within the screen, obviously, as a lot of manufacturers are going with. What you do notice is it's a very slippy back, very slippy, and it's not like, you know, normally say, just stick a case on it, you'll be all right. But if you put a case on it, you're covering up one of the phone's biggest features. The other thing being the buttons, both on the right-hand side, they're very low profile. And maybe it's just because I'm used to my Nexus 6 with the volume below and the power above, but the amount of times I went and I'd press a volume button trying to find the power button. So yeah, they just made a little too low profile. The bezel, I've been doing my calculations, is 20.66% bezel, the front of the screen, which is actually one of the higher percentages. So they've not done a great job. There's quite a lot of bezel at the top and at the bottom. The edges are fine, but it is a reasonable amount of bezel there. The hardware inside, there's a Snapdragon 800 chipset, a 2.3 gigahertz quad-core Crate 400 CPU. The Adreno 330 GPU, 2 gig of RAM. So all these specs, I mean, those specs are almost identical to the Nexus 5, which is obviously a year-old phone, so it's a little bit weird they've launched it with those specs. Even more weird that they've priced it at £550. I can understand, yeah, those specs are good enough. They can run a phone, but not at a sort of the high price like that. Excuse me. The LCD display is 5 inches, 920 by 1080, and I actually think it's a very good display. It's 442 pixels per inch. It's bright, clear, it's vibrant. The image seems almost like it's stuck to the front of the glass. There's good whites. Let's see if I get a whitish image. So it's good whites, strong blacks. Generally, I think the screen is one of its strengths. Actually, it is a very nice looking screen. The alternate display on the back is 540 by 960, a 4.7 inch e-ink display. You do get an odd screen burn effect. There's one clock where the hands actually go round, and you get an odd screen burn effect where it sort of leaves the old bit behind. E-ink works in a way of, it only actually uses power when it changes it changes it to a grey or a light or a darker. Apart from that, it takes no battery at all. Much like a Kindle display if you've used one of them. This has 32 gig of storage, 25 gig of which is available, which is not too bad, 7 gig in use, not too bad. It does have NFC, and it also has a nano SIM, which is actually behind the volume rocker, which is kind of weird, but I guess why not? It sort of almost uses one less slot. One thing that I thought an odd omission was there's no notification light. I suppose on the one hand, I didn't particularly notice that there wasn't one, but at the same time, I didn't know when I had notifications. So, and because it's an LCD screen, I wouldn't trust necessarily. There are some apps where they'll use some of the pixels to flash for you, but LCD I don't think works like the AMOLED. So yeah, it would burn battery to do so. If we move on further hardware-wise to the camera, 8 megapixel camera on the rear, 2 megapixel camera on the front. Generally the photos look good, but not amazing. The colours seem a little cold, I think. The video seems to struggle sometimes to focus. It bounces in and out a bit. It can just take a long time to focus. And again, the colours don't really pop. They just seem a little bit washed out. Add to that the stock Android camera software is a little bit basic, and unfortunately the camera is one of its weaker points. So if that's important to you, not a good sign. And again, for a £550 device, I'd hope for a little more. There might be improvements. One of the updates I got, or the update I got, did say it improved the camera a bit, and I think it possibly did. I think the colours were maybe a little bit better, so it could improve in time. Speaking of updates, the software on the device is stock Android 4.4.3. Now, obviously, this is a bit of an unknown company, YotaPhone, so I've no idea when they'll get Lollipop to it. Bearing in mind this is 4.4.3, not even the most recent version of KitKat, which was 4.4.4, and I would be a little concerned buying this device with the uncertainty of when Lollipop would come. Generally, it's very slick and it's very smooth, as I guess you would. Oopsie daisy. As I guess you would expect from a stock Android device. I did have a few app closures. Let's just see if it. Geekbench was one of them. It happened in. No, it's going to work fine now. That's fine. Geekbench was one, and actually my People app was crashing quite often before the update. So maybe the update fixed a lot of things. So there was an update. I mean, that is the good news. It didn't move it up a version of Android, but it did. It did say that it was fixing some performance issues and some issues with the camera. The rear screen use as far as software, it seems a little clunky, but then I guess that's to be expected because of what it is. You can use it, so you can, I can browse through Twitter here, for example. You can look at images and whatever you want to do. So it is usable. We're back to the. Again, watch my video if you want to know more about. Oh, that's what I want, the grid. Excuse me. If you want to know more about the screen, watch the video I did about that. It's about 8 minutes long. Also, notifications. They don't seem to. I mean, I think they will tell you you've got a notification. And you tap it. So there, I've had some. A little number up here on that. You tap it, and then it then says, turn your phone over to see notifications. So you have to then turn it over anyway and check them manually. So I think that defeats the purpose a little bit. It needs better integration with sort of rich notifications, I would suggest. Performance-wise, as I mentioned, it's very slick, very smooth. Before the update, I did notice it seemed to miss some of my screen touches. It even lagged a bit when I tried to add widgets. But I think since the update, it's sort of a little bit of lag there. That's relatively common when you add in a widget, though. See that? I would say that was very smooth. The battery, it's a 2,500 milliamp hour battery, so actually that's pretty high spec for a screen of this size, a phone of this size. It does mention, as you see there, Yota Energy. I didn't use that. It also tries to predict how many hours you've got left. I'm assuming that means using Yota Energy, but I'm not entirely sure. In my use, let's see, I tried one day where I didn't plug it in on my trip into work or back out. I was using sat-nav. Obviously, I used the phone through the day. The sat-nav I used for about 50 minutes. I'd had about 2 hours screen on time through the day, including the sat-naving, obviously. And I basically wore it down to 37%. I don't think that was too bad, really, considering how much power sat-nav and streaming Bluetooth music takes. And you can see clearly on the graph the 2 points where they were, when I was driving to and back from work. So I thought, well, actually 37% at the end of the day, that's probably not too bad. I clearly easily made it to the end of the day. So not too bad. But then I did my battery test that I've now devised. playing a video with the screen on full brightness. It's a 37-minute long video, one of my own, and then putting the screen down to lowest brightness and playing the video again. From fully charged, and the YotaPhone finished with 83%, which is actually the only, I mean, I've only tested 6 phones, but the only one that did worse was the Nexus 5, which finished at 82. To compare, the Note 4 finished on 90. So that wasn't a good result. So I'm a little torn with the battery. I'm not entirely sure. I think it'll be okay for sort of medium use. You shouldn't have any problems. As far as hackability, only the original YotaPhone is listed on XDA developers, and even then there aren't any ROMs, there's hardly any posts. So, well, you know, I mean, I don't think this phone is even available in the States, which is obviously where a lot of developers are. It's quite an unknown company, so I don't think anyone's really sure what to expect. We'll have to wait and see, but I wouldn't be getting this device expecting there to be custom ROMs available. So, all in all, I think the back screen is very useful, but mainly as a clock. It needs better integration with rich notifications. It is quite handy. Let me see if I can just show you quickly. Now let's go into... So we go into the camera on the back screen, and we can then, use the main camera for selfie taking. You know, it all functions, and obviously when you turn it over, the image you've captured is obviously in color, and you get a pretty good selfie because you're using the main front-facing camera. So there are some uses where actually the back screen will be very handy. Definitely you earn nerd points for the back screen. The amount of people's kind of, oh, what's that? Oh, that's really cool, when they see it. It is a nicely designed phone. It's a little bit slippy for my liking. If the size is right for you, though, it could, well, I would say, yeah, it could be one to consider. It's certainly slick in operation. Stock Android is quite sought after by some. The camera is a bit of a negative, and the no notification light concern me. And also, I can't help but think at £550, it's sort of 150 to 200 more than it should be. If this was priced at 350 or 400, I think it's got a much better shot at some sales. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think. My name's Andy. I'll catch you all again soon.